Welcome to the Celebration of You. I'm your host, Holly Dowling. I'm thrilled to share with you incredible people from all over the world who are living and leading extraordinary lives. From overcoming immense adversity to discovering the secret sauce to leading with courage and grace. Their stories are going to bring you hope and inspiration. Now let the stories begin. Oh, I love it. I'm so excited. Welcome everybody to another incredible episode of Celebration of You. And as always, I like to pause and just thank everyone out there, the amazing listeners. You know, there's some people that have been listening since day one. And I'm going to give a shout out to Jeff, to Michelle, to Penelope, to Rolkoff, to people all over the world. I mean, there's thousands of people listening, but there's some that take the time to leave messages and let us know the stories make a difference. So I just want to thank all of you. And there's many, many more, but thank you, because this show is about sharing stories that most often I don't even know the whole story, but people who've overcome adversity and living an extraordinary life as they use their soul for their highest calling. So on that note, I am beyond thrilled to introduce you to this beautiful, amazing angel on assignment who we had the good fortune, or shall we say, incredible year of being recognized as Sheroes and then finally meeting in person at the Shero Gala in February. So Courtney Phillips, welcome, my dear, beautiful friend.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Can you believe it's been we were just talking, right, Courtney? We're like, wow, we met in February at the gala, and that was right before COVID hit.
I know. I feel like I blinked and I was here, and I would like to have all that time back. Can we just not have our birthdays this year?
Yeah, that's a good idea. Wait, we could start that trend. Everybody gets to skip one, right?
2020 didn't happen.
No, it didn't. It's just a redo. And we officially met at the Shero Gala. And fortunately, we've been blessed to be a part of the Shero documentary that was filmed then and has now been released a few weeks ago. So for everyone, you're going to hear Courtney and I talk through some pretty intense things, and we've chosen to share our stories in the essence of not only helping ourselves heal more, but to help those few people out there that feel like they're all alone. And you think it can never happen to you, and it can. So, Courtney, I love you for being so courageous. So you're this beautiful beacon. People would look at you and go, how could anything have ever happened to this gorgeous woman, right? Isn't that the truth? Right?
I mean, that happens to me every single day. And that's one of the reasons why I decided to start sharing my story so broadly, is because people say that didn't happen to you, or you couldn't feel that way, because a lot of my message is rooted in mental health. And they look at me, I do pageants, and they look at me and say, someone who stands up there and looks the way that you look couldn't feel the way that you're feeling. And that's something that I feel like a lot of people need to hear, that it doesn't matter what you look like, that we all have shared feelings and shared circumstances.
And that is what makes you extraordinary. And let's face it, just let's start right there, because I want to talk and hear more about your beautiful foundation you've started, which is the Hope for Invisible Wounds, which seems so apropos to what you just said. They look at you, this beautiful pageant girl, and go, how could you possibly feel any different than magnificent? And I think it's amazing that you've continued you did those pageants knowing, I mean, that's part of your story. So how about we start with, let's go back to, let's go back to the younger girl. What was the pivotal moment when you were the younger Courtney that you feel was probably when you had to face, as a young girl, adversity, whether you realized it or not at the time? Because I think some of us, Courtney, we don't even realize what's happening to us till much later. We almost accept it as the norm. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, I actually suffered from multiple childhood traumas growing up, and they affected my mental health and my self-confidence throughout my life. I lost my mother when I was 7 to cancer. And because of that, my father remarried. And my stepmother was both physically and emotionally abusive. And My father was actually suffering from complex PTSD from his life as a police officer. And instead of seeking care for his mental health conditions, he was coping with alcoholism. And ultimately, um, when I was 24, actually, not he, when I was 24, when I just got out of graduate school, he passed away from cirrhosis of the liver.
Oh,
That's the trauma. That's kind of the piece that affected me. The pivotal moment for me was finding out that he was dying,
mm,
because I actually didn't know that he was drinking. He was what they call a functioning alcoholic.
yeah.
And so he was just the only stability that I had throughout all of that in my life. He was actually um, my kind of, um, I kind of think of him now through those last years of adulthood before he was gone as a best friend. And so standing in that hospital room, hearing that he had, a few days to live, I had my first panic attack.
Mm.
Um, I went from standing on the stage at a state Miss USA pageant uh, to not being able to take care of myself because of panic attacks and anxiety.
All within those few days of
Mm-hmm.
knowing that your father, wow. I mean, I'm just saying, I'm taking a moment right now because when you think about at 24, here you are doing pageants, you're in Miss USA, and little did you know that the internal side of you, right? That's part of the invisible wounds that you
Mm-hmm.
speak about. Can I ask you this? If you were to
Mm-hmm.
go back, were you brave? Did you know you were being physically and emotionally abused by your stepmother? Or was it something you just thought was normal? How was that experience? Because I want people to hear the different ways we deal with this stuff.
I think that at 9 years old, 7 years old, I thought that was normal. I don't think that what resonated at 7, 8, 9 years old, I don't think I realized that that didn't happen before she came along. I don't think that I realized it until she left when I was 16. And my dad wasn't around, and that she wasn't leaving marks, and like she never physically hit my face. But what's interesting is the physical abuse. I mean, I'm sure on some level, as I go through my trauma therapy in my mid 30s now, um, that will come out as something that has affected me. But what really I still every single day am affected by is the emotional abuse,
Mm-hmm.
because I will forever be a perfectionist.
Mm.
Because it went from me always trying to prove myself to him, to my dad, because she would tell me that he didn't love me and he didn't want me there and I wasn't ever going to be anything,
Oh,
to then he was gone. And then I don't know who I'm trying to prove myself to, maybe myself.
mm,
Um, constantly driving, whether it's physically with my, hair and makeup and working out for my body, or whether it's with my work, trying to climb the corporate ladder, my house, trying to make sure that it's beautiful. Like, it doesn't matter what I'm working on, it has to be perfect. And that I know that that comes from the child abuse.
yeah. Yeah. Well, it definitely does. Just all the therapy that a lot of us have been through. And like yourself,
Mm-hmm.
that's our coping mechanism. It's like
Mm-hmm.
if we keep everything perfect and we walk on eggshells, then nothing will
Mm-hmm.
break. Right. And it's like
Right.
nothing will break within us and nothing will break around us. And God forbid. Right. So
Mm-hmm.
did you ever tell your father what was going on before she left, or did you wait and tell him after she was gone?
So one time she slapped me in the face, and I think this is in my story, and I ran outside to get away from her. It was when I was about 15. And as I ran out, he was coming home, and he saw a red mark on my face, and he said, "What happened to you?" And I said, "Well, she hit me." And like, duh, because I assumed, children don't know that the other parent doesn't know that that's going on. And I feel like this is probably is something that child sex abuse survivors have gone through, I'm sure,
Yeah.
as well. And I just assumed that all of the adults in my life and all of the people that were around knew what was going on. I assumed that my dad knew. Of course, she did that to me. And he said, "What?" And he said, "Stay right there." And he went inside. And she actually never touched me again. And they got divorced shortly after that.
Wow. He had your back. He defended you, but he never knew
Mm-hmm.
from 7, 8 years
Mm-hmm.
old till you were 15. And,
Mm-hmm.
this is powerful, Courtney, because if you had just this fragile, young, beautiful girl in your arms right now, or, for all the people listening, and we have a lot of families, I want you to know, that listen from around the world. If you could go back, what advice could you give to that younger person? Let's say a 12-year-old girl right now, or a 10-year-old boy, somebody that might just be living in this. Is there any advice you could give them? Or maybe what would you have done differently if you knew you could? I know that's a pretty broad question, but I'm just looking to see what maybe would shift or change if now where you are today based on that young girl.
So the advice that I would have to say is that 7 years is just one moment in time when you think about how long your life is. And you're going to make it through. And what you're going through or what they're going through is so, if you think about 90 years or being alive for 80, 90 years, and that we have to think about like moving forward and being positive and just think about it as a moment in time.
Mm-hmm.
And um, that's the like most that I can like provide. And that's what I try to tell anyone who's going through anything that they're suffering through, whether it's grief or a bout of depression or a job loss. It's like, we will get through this. The world isn't, a happy place at all times, and we have to find ways to move on. And there are support services and resources for everything. But like as a child, you don't always know that you can advocate for yourself. And one of the things that child abuse and situations like this does is it causes you to turn off your ability to be aware. Because, and I've learned this in therapy, when you are constantly surrounded by red flags because you live in a state of red flags everywhere, then you stop seeing them everywhere and you turn off all of your surroundings, and everything seems normal. Like everything is, you're only inside yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And so you don't even have the ability to be aware that it's not normal. So that child that's going through that, that's just in terror all the time, may not even know that they need to ask for help.
I think you just hit it. I think you just nailed it right there. They don't know because it's their norm.
Mm-hmm.
It's all you know. You just assume this is happening everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So take us from, it sounds like she left at 16, then you were dealing with, and then your father and his battle with alcoholism. So take us to the next pivotal moment for you, because what I want people to know is typically just one experience, say 7 years of abuse, doesn't mean it's all over and it's all perfect and rosy once you heal. It's a constant lifetime journey, right? For people like us, right? We're constantly growing and learning and working on ourselves. So I know you're laughing because you're like, oh yeah, there was more to come.
I always say it's a roller coaster, because there are going to be ups and downs. Just like I was saying, like there's job losses, there's bouts of depression. I call it the seasons of life. And once you have gone down the healing path and you make that commitment to yourself, you start learning what your triggers are and what looks healthy to you. And you know when you need to get a little bit more care, when you need to lean in. And sometimes, you kind of start figuring that out. For me, so I can step back and kind of walk you through it, but I have struggled just like everyone else in 2020. It's been a season of transitions for me. I've recently gone through a divorce, a house move in the middle of a pandemic, and I lost my job because of the pandemic. I've luckily found a new one that I love. Unlike a lot of people, I've been lucky in that sense, but that's, a lot of things hit me. And I because of the trauma that we've been talking about, as those things were coming at me, I thought, oh, a divorce, that's nothing. I went through childhood trauma.
Yeah.
On to the next. Oh, I'm getting rid of, I mean, we sold a house, but I when I talk about the house, I actually say I lost my house, because if you're a childhood survivor or survivor of childhood trauma, sometimes you don't have a home that's safe, and you don't have, like, when you don't have that, where you can like go to sleep and feel safe and feel comfortable, you sometimes don't have that until you're older. Well, mine was the home that I owned here and as an adult, and it was the first one that I've ever had where I really had that comfortable surrounding, where I owned it and had this like comfort. And so we sold that with the divorce, and I don't know how to explain that loss to anyone who hasn't gone through something like that, because it is a material possession, and it is whatever you want to say, it's a first world problem. Okay. But I, it was the first time I felt stable and comfortable to like not feel like, I guess that trauma, I guess, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And then obviously then with just the pandemic and losing of a job, when you put so much of your perfectionism and yourself into what you do.
Yes.
But so all of those things, and it was like, oh, well, that's nothing. Well, that's nothing. I've been through this. I've been through so much worse. And then all of a sudden I found myself just like crashing down. I was walking the dog and just buckets of tears, but I didn't know why I was crying.
Yeah. That's the wounds, the invisible wounds, right?
They're all down there. And I have a trauma therapist, and I've been working with a psychiatrist and with my coping mechanisms for 12 years now. And I'm a mental health advocate, and I teach people how to, deal with healthy coping mechanisms. But sometimes it gets you, especially if you get your routine ripped away because of things like stay-at-home orders.
Yeah.
And I feel like one of the biggest things I can do to help others is to be transparent about when I go back through struggles.
I agree. Can I just tell you, it's what I'm sitting here listening to you with my eyes closed, and I'm loving you for that, because it's one thing to help others. It's another thing to be able to still say it doesn't just end. It's a journey. It's our lifetime. I love that you said the seasons. And by you being transparent, Courtney, and saying, I'm feeling things too right now. I'm experiencing some resurfacing of some trauma wounds through the course of all these events that have happened in my life through this pandemic. And that to me makes you even that much more real. It makes you that much more, wow, she's authentic. She's turning around. You're wanting to help other people. At the same time, you're still on the journey of healing and helping yourself, which,
Absolutely.
I'm much older than you, my friend. Oh dear, I'm not going to tell you. But on that note, I will say, because we were talking before the show, that we have to give kudos to the beautiful Dawn Burnett, who,
oh goodness,
right, who started the Shiro Project as a journalist and writer and TV show host. And we were both interviewed by her a year and a half or so ago. And we were laughing before the show, but she got us both, I'm sure all of us, to go deep into some of those crevices and wounds that we have bandaged up over the years, or think enough therapy has healed it and it just kind of opened things back up. But it was so we could help others too. And,
absolutely.
Yeah.
I actually read an article this week, and I wish I had read it right before we spoke, because I'm definitely not an expert on the areas of the brain, but it spoke to when you share pieces of trauma and experience, it helps release hidden pain that's locked into, and I think it's like the frontal cortexes of the brain. And you probably have a reader who's an expert on this, and I'm completely misspeaking.
No, I love it. You're right on the nose. I'm really into the brain. So I love that you're saying this. Yes.
But I was like, I really feel it, because I used to work with wounded warriors for the Air Force. And one of the things that we did was coach them on how to share their stories to help destigmatize the military on getting care. And I would watch them blossom as they shared, whether it was as they were practicing or when they got out. Like, it was night and day, like as they went through. And then when I started sharing more and more and speaking, and whether it be like in these kind of forums or when we did the documentary, it was like little pieces just started getting better and better. And it's interesting because I'd been doing the hard work with the therapist for a decade before I spoke to anyone publicly.
Wow.
And then I read that article this week and I thought, that's really interesting because I've seen it in other people, and now I've witnessed it in myself too. And it really all came together for me.
Okay, I need you to do me a favor. When we are done, will you can you find that article and send it to me? I would love to see it.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
I have to dig for it, but yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this is crazy. So I have to tell you, because I'm sure you're familiar with this type of work too when we think about trauma. But this last year, I mean, Courtney, it's crazy. It's like a whole nother, we could spend another hour talking about this, but I do believe in serendipity, and you never know who you're going to meet and who you're going to talk to that you were supposed to meet, because then they open another door or a connection to somebody else.
Right.
So a year ago, that happened in a conversation, and a friend were I was talking about anxieties that I have. And one of which is I can't get on an escalator.
Oh my gosh. I'm scared of escalators too.
Are you? I cannot get on, and if I can't hold on. And so all the traveling I do, if I have all my luggage, you should see me. If I'm walking through an airport and I see this escalator, and then I try to position things. And if I can't be able to hold on, I have to go find the elevator because I can't do it.
Okay, that's fair.
Okay. So all of this, so I'm talking about this, and they say, you've got to meet this guy. He specializes in trauma therapy, but not re-talking therapy over and over.
Okay.
It's in the deep part of the vagus part of the brain, because that's where a lot of things live that's subconscious. We're not even aware of it. Right. I literally did 4 sessions on Zoom with this gentleman who I ended up having on my show in January, because I wanted the world to know, people that are listening, that I have chosen to heal and work on some trauma therapy. And it was riveting what happened. But that whole experience, all I want you to know is you should listen to that show. 4 sessions over Zoom with him. And
I'm calling him.
You are. I'm going to introduce you to him, because I will make an email introduction, but and everybody knows he was on my show, Tom Delano. The reason he's so passionate about this wasn't his life mission. He was a big Fortune 500 financial guy. They were brutally burglarized, their family. And one of their 3 children was psychologically pretty much almost ruined from the burglary. And he took him to all these therapists. They kept taking him to all these people, and nothing was working. And he decided to quit his job and spent 3 years saying, I don't care about the money. We're going to heal our child. And spent 3 years seeking from Western to Eastern medicines, different therapies, right? Studying everything, learning. And because it ended up working, his son was able, he couldn't even walk from his bedroom to his bathroom from the trauma. Everything about him, he became his old self. And it was through friends and family saying, oh my gosh, your son is healed. I think you need to meet my sister or this person. So that's how it's manifested. You've got to meet him. And it's amazing because it goes to the brain. So when you're talking about the therapy and trauma, I want you to know whatever that article was, please send it. And I
will.
As your friend, I will make the intro, but to you, my love, for all that you've done, and just the ongoing, I want to, as we wrap this up, I want to highlight, and I'd love for you to tell us, what are you doing now? What are you most passionate about? And tell us about your hope for the invisible wounds. Tell us what you're doing in this world.
So right now I am Miss Virginia for America.
I love that.
I just won it in July. I am prepping for the Miss for America pageant. I do pageants to bring awareness to my work with Hope for Invisible Wounds. This year with COVID and everything that's going on, I have focused a lot of my efforts on substance abuse disorder as well as mental health, because I think a lot of people have been turning to unhealthy coping mechanisms. I also have kind of shifted the message a little bit because of my dad. And I really think that, I had this broad message of mental health, but he was coping unhealthily with alcohol. And I think it's important to, realize that these are coexisting conditions. And I've partnered with a local rehab facility here in Reston, Virginia, that they really look at mental health as well as substance abuse and how they can treat both. As you can't just get someone clean after 30 days and put them back out,
Yes.
either with their families or out on the street. That's really not going to be helpful for them.
I love that that they're doing that. I just have to say, because it's like one is they're not separate. They're together. And I love that you're talking about this, because I get adamant about this, because I have a brother that's an 18-year heroin survivor. He's clean. He has a beautiful family now, but he and I were all passionate about mental health is not being talked about the way it needs to be. We shove it under the carpet. We talk about cancer, right? But we seem to think it's a faux pas or something. So the fact that we're talking about it, Courtney, and you are making this your mission, and in COVID now more than ever, depression is at an all-time high, substance abuse, domestic violence, child trafficking. I mean, everything's escalating. So I love that you are making this, like, you can hear it in your voice, and you're using your platform to not just be this stunningly beautiful woman out there doing pageants. You're using it as a way to get your voice out there. Look, I'm so excited for you right now. I'm just like jumping up and down.
Yay. So and Hope for Invisible Wounds is my outreach initiative. And I'm glad that you have highlighted it. And thank you so much for that. It is something that I've been passionate about for over 3 years. And I use it to raise awareness, provide resources and tools for those who are suffering from trauma. And I partner with local and national and international organizations. It's allowed me to even go and advocate at the United Nations on behalf of mental health organizations. One of the biggest things that I do with Hope for Invisible Wounds is I actually share stories of healing for others, so I can help combat the stigma. I actually don't like to say to destigmatize. I like to say I'm normalizing mental health because I feel like it's starting to just become, it's numbing out the word destigmatize. Like, people just hear that so much. So I like to say that I'm normalizing it.
I love that. Do you know what? I just got a smile. I'm literally listening to you with my eyes closed again. And I'm literally smiling because I love the shift in just the vernacular of how the difference in what that felt like, hearing you use those words, completely shifted my energy.
That's great. I'm glad to hear it.
Yeah, because like you did that. That's an intentional choice of yours, because that's exactly what you want. Unbeknownst to you, you just saying it completely shifted my energy and how I heard and received that. And, it's fascinating because I'm listening to you, and I want you to know I give you 100% anything and everything I can do to support you. Will you let me know if there's anything I can do, through all of my work and healing that I've worked through, and just all the people that we've come together? Please let me know how we can support you. And I'm actually getting ready. This is crazy. I'm getting ready to launch a daily dose of inspirational app. So, because I want to figure out how we can do. That's what people need more than ever right now. We need hope. And sometimes when you're all alone and you haven't even gotten to the place of getting yourself professional help, because you're not even quite ready, or you may not even be aware of the issue, but people need hope more now than ever, Courtney. So,
absolutely. Let's
figure out a way we can combine efforts there. I just feel like there's something that this app can do to help you too in your mission, what you're doing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I'm just in awe of you. And I have to say thank you too for our beautiful, Kimberly Miles, who was the founder of the Shiro Gala that fortunately, Dawn and Kimberly got to join efforts for us Shiros out there so that we could meet and be together. And, I'm just so grateful for you and for you using your platform for the highest and best use of your soul in this world.
Oh,
thank you.
And thank you so much for having me. This was a fabulous conversation.
Well, it's what people need to hear, right? Like, is there any last moments of hope or wisdom or advice you'd like to leave listeners with, no matter what their age, what their gender, where they live in the world? anything that's just burning in your soul that you just got to say it, what would that be?
I would just say that no matter what you're going through, that there is someone else that has felt that way, and that there's someone out there that can help you. And that if you are in crisis, that there is a number that you can call. There's a suicide prevention hotline, and that you can reach out to either Holly or I, and we can talk to you, and that just know that you're not alone.
I love that. And if they do want to reach out to you, will you tell everybody the best and easiest way for people to get in touch with you and your mission and everything you're doing?
Absolutely. If you want to reach out to me or follow me in my efforts, you can find me on Instagram at the Courtney Phillips. And my Instagram for Hope for Invisible Wounds is Hope for the number Invisible Wounds.
Beautiful.
And pretty much everything else I do is linked through those accounts.
It's perfect. Thank you. Congratulations on all that you're doing, and keep me posted. We'll be staying close in touch because I want to be cheering you on. I have to say, now remember, I already gave you the caveat. I'm a lot older than you, but years ago, I was a pageant girl years ago. And that's a conversation you and I should have someday, because I saw a really odd side about it. And yet I was like, I'm not sure this is for me. You know, when you try something, and had I had the courage and the tenacity of what you're doing is you're using it for a much bigger calling. And I just wanted to say that again. Thank you for what you're doing, Courtney. It's making a difference.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you for letting me use your platform to share my message today.
Absolutely. And if people want to go see us tell the real raw story, even more so than what you're hearing on our show, go to notorietynetwork.com and go to the Shiro Project. And for everyone listening, it's still free to watch the movie. And if after the end of this month you want to watch it, just use the code Shiro. You have to give a shout out for Allie and the producers that did a beautiful job on that movie. So thank you, Courtney. I love you. I can't wait to see what more you do in this world.
Thank you. Have a wonderful day.
You too, love. Thank you for joining me for another awesome celebration of you. If you were inspired by this story, please share it with your family and friends and hashtag Your Story Matters. I'd love to hear from you, so please leave a comment on iTunes. And absolutely, please come to my website, hollydowling.com. Leave a comment there too, and while you're there, pick up your free gift. Most importantly though, just remember that your life is a gift from God. What you do with it is your gift back.